Hi. Yeah, this is probably gonna end up as the channel intro video, so I probably shouldn't do anything irresponsible or inappropriate. You failed me! Yeah, this sucks. I'll be telling you about how you can make your music in a DAW, and I'll be giving you general advice throughout the process. So go grab a pen and paper because this is gonna be a lot of info. Disclaimer, this video is not about how to get millions above billions of dollars with your music or how to get popular. No, hey, don't leave, wait, okay? This might still be of some use for you, so just hang on with me a little longer, okay? Cool, thank you, moving on. Now, if you guys have any questions regarding music production, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to answer to as many as I can. Okay, first thing to do is pretty easy. Pick a DAW of your choice. There are a lot of DAWs out there with all kinds of different fancy things, but I specifically chose Ableton because I really like the program, and I also watch a lot of musicians that actually use the software, and also fuck you, Ableton is superior and I know better. For example, look at this fancy thing Ableton got. You can take basically anything and press the warp button. Oh, it's perfectly quantized and can now be sped up, slowed down, and pitched. I don't see you having that feature, Fruity Loop. Okay, they probably have something like this, but you get the point. Let's take a closer look at what we have to work with. Any sound, may be a fucking fart or a full-on song, can be boiled down to a spectrum. Yeah, that. The spectrum is divided into sections. The high frequencies, they're also called the trebles, and I can already hear the screams of the many people I just triggered with that sentence alone. Fuck me. There are also the mid frequencies and the... Our work as music producers is to fill that son of a bitch out, so we need sounds from every part of the spectrum. So if you feel like there's something lacking in your music, it might be because there's not enough, or maybe not enough action from the high frequencies fraction, for example. Nice, cool. You still there? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't. Moving on to something that isn't quite as boring. Let's talk about style first. This is probably one of the most important features you have to have in your music. Your music should be distinguishable from other people's music. That doesn't mean it has to be a completely new made-up genre though. You can still make music in the genre you would like to make it in, but for it to be noticeable, it has to have a new or an at least somewhat new creative characteristic. That's where the process/outcome duality comes in. In a GDC talk, the famous musician Mick Gordon, which by the way, if you don't know him, he made the soundtrack for... God, I love that soundtrack. Yada yada, he was talking about how to make music that was never heard before, and one quote stood out to me in particular. He said, "Change the process, change the outcome." Now keep in mind, we're talking about somebody who has made a fucking masterpiece out of what is basically a chainsaw sample. So he probably knows what he's talking about. Sorry, I have to drink a little bit. Now the quote itself is pretty understandable. You change the system behind how you make a sound, and then the sound will change correspondingly. Nothing you guys as smooth brains can't take, right? Now think about this. If the process is the system behind the music, and in order to change the music, you have to change the system, then isn't the process equal to style? That means all you gotta do is come up with another way to make the music in the genre you like, and bada bing bada boom, you have a style of your own. By the system, I mean pretty much anything that's going on in the music. I don't know, maybe change out the guitar sound in your music for a chainsaw. Hell, maybe it'll even work. My advice is to narrow down the genre you want to make your music in and then improve upon that genre. After a certain time, you'll be able to move on to other genres, but for the time being, only pick one or two. This is where the research comes in. No matter how original you are, no matter how well crafted out your new system might be, you still gotta know how the music in that specific genre works, or else it's just gonna sound like utter shit. For example, in lo-fi, it is the slow pace and the mash between sounds that create that lo-fi feeling in the first place. My advice is to listen to the music in that specific genre and then try to pinpoint the instruments that play in that particular part or in that particular song. There are a shit ton of YouTube tutorials out there on how to make all kinds of different styles of music. Learn about the system, learn about the instruments. That actually takes me to another point, the instrumentalization. People think they have to learn for years and years on how to play the piano and in that way improve. But they let out the most important part of creating music. The damn theory and how everything works in the first place. Does your hand coordination and sight reading improve after the 10 millionth Mozart/Beethoven piece? Yes, it probably does, but no matter how you wrap your head around it, you need to know the basics of how to make music, of how chords work, and what musical notes even are in the first place. For example, I recently started learning the acoustic guitar. I quickly realized that there was a system in both chord playing and strumming. For example, one of those things here, equal semitone, that made me able to play an E major chord instead of an E minor, because one string is just a semitone higher. There are a million plugins out there that could probably do everything for you, but trust me, it's so much easier to know what a dominant chord is or how basically every song works and then replicate that exact system onto every scale possible and tweak them. I will link you guys to videos which basically explain everything you need to know about music theory to start out in probably under 30 minutes. Links are in the description down below. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the research. Sometimes a good chord progression can make the difference between an utter pile of doo-doo and an actual good musical piece, so keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that additional equipment such as audio interfaces or anything like this is not essential to making music, but it does make it quite easier. Here's something I created using nothing but a couple operators, a guitar stock plugin, and my keyboard. And it fucking slaps. Let me really quickly describe to you how I start a project, because for a lot of people it is quite difficult when your mind is blank. Step 1. Start with anything, basically anything. It can be just a random sample you got inspired by, but it is an initial idea. Step 2. Get inspired by that idea. Think of how you can fit it into a song or what you can make out of it, thus creating more ideas. Step 3. Collect all those ideas that have been inspired by the root idea in a musical form. For example, I always collect everything including the bass, drums, and maybe some vocals here and there at first. And only in step 4 you actually start with the arrangements of the song. Only then do you divide all your ideas into parts in the song. For me, this way it's both easier and faster. All this time we were talking about making everything on your own and creating your own style and shit, but we also never talked about other people's ideas. A very big mistake is to think that if you rip off a certain idea off of someone, for example, how he creates a certain sound in a song, that it would be unoriginal and theft. Well, yes, if you keep their idea exactly how it is, then yes, you're probably right, but implementing and shaping the idea is not something you have to fear. You can tweak that idea and as such put your own shine, your own piece of gum, if you will, on it. Have you ever wondered about how Daft Punk made their song One More Time? Ripped off a sample and pitched it up. Miami from Will Smith? Ripped off, sped up, and a hip-hop beat below it, basically. One thing I also found what helped is keep in touch with other artists. Whenever I would listen to a piece of music and not know how a certain sound is made, I basically just contacted the producer and asked about it. It both makes you learn about the genre more and actually socialize. Isn't that crazy? But aside from that, all the BS that you heard from me, all the bips and bops and whatever the fucks I said, always remember to have fun. Don't see it as something only to make your money on. Have fun while you're doing it. If it's not fun, then what's the point? You know, writing a script with actual constructive jokes is pretty hard. I had to stay up till fucking 4 AM in the morning to finish this. God, what am I doing with my life? Be proud of yourself. You reached the end of the video. Congratulations. You now officially have HIV. If you have any more questions regarding music production, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you're new here, maybe consider subscribing. I do all kinds of crazy shit on here. Maybe leave a like on this piece of shit video and turn on the bell notifications. That's all from me. I hope this motivated you at least somewhat. Stay safe. Thank you.